Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Anime Over Analyst here, and today's video is my part 4 of my Made in Abyss review series. As you can see, this is volume 4. The cover shows Nanachi along with Prushka, and then just some various other, looks like female characters that I think traveled with Nanachi. On the back here, we've got Mitty here, and then just some more female characters, I think. So, I'm just gonna dive right on into this. There's a lot that goes on into this volume. I did reread it last night, and just kind of going over my kind of thoughts and notes before this video, I noticed so much more. There's so much that goes on in this section that I keep forgetting about. So, might as well just jump right on in. So, one thing that I like here is that right off the bat, we get classifications of all of these creatures that we've encountered, going from 1 star being insignificant to un what was it? Unprecedented, as in we don't know what to classify this. And they're like it started as a joke and then it actually became an actual classification. So that's just real funny. So yeah, basic synopsis of this volume is that basically Nanachi, Reg, and Rico go and meet Bone Druid, and they come in contact with him, and Bone Druid does some evil stuff. But before all that happens, we get a couple really sweet moments. We get the first moment just right off the bat is when uh, Rico teaches Nanachi how to cook a little bit, and Nanachi tastes like good food for like the first time ever in her life. And it's just a really sweet moment. She's crying and just feel real bad for her because I never really realized that she hadn't actually tasted good quality food until Rico came along. And I remembered that, like, literally in the last volume 3, Nanachi explains that all she really ate were those kind of dry bars, which we find out later on is an actual relic that Bone Druid provides. So, as they're eating, Rico kind of explains what happened when she passed it out. She kind of got deformed into a just kind of like emotional baby, I suppose, but without like any thoughts. It kind of like got revert, and it made me really think of the time that she had died and got placed into that relic, that whole cube. And she's talking about how she feels squeezed inside. So, we've got this really kind of like fetus depictions. And as you can see, she's staring through this hole. And on the other side of this hole is an eyeball, which we find out to be pretty much Mitty. So while Rico is going through this unconscious state, Mitty is keeping an eye on her, literally, with the eye that Bone Druid actually destroyed. So that's really cool. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, how old is Nanichi? Is she as old as Rico? Did that whole instance take place at the same time that Rico was born? That's a possibility. Time is different in the Abyss. And I don't remember if that's stated here or in future volumes, but it's different as the further down you go in the Abyss, which is super cool. So I think it is very possible that Mitty, as her eye was going to become part of the Abyss, came in contact with Rico. And so as Rico was unconscious and kind of regressed back in time a little bit. It was kind of weird, but kind of just this unconscious state. When Mitty got blown away, got incinerated, the eye disappeared, and Rico was left alone, and then she woke up. So It's real interesting that Mitty kind of kept literally an eye on Rico. So that's really cool. Just a really cool move. So the chapter progresses and Rico and Reg take a bath together, which I won't show any pictures of because that's nudity. But yes, they do take a bath together with Nanachi kind of just smugly overlooking at them. She's like, "Oh, you two are lovers," and Reg's like, "No, we aren't." And Rico's like, "Why not?" Rico is real interesting because she can be dumb at times, and at times she just seems incredibly intelligent. And that was one of those things where I don't think like love really matters to her. So, like that, like being exposed in front of Reg, like she's done it so many times now that she doesn't care if she's exposed in front of Reg, which is real interesting, and it's a very adult thing to do, and that's kind of something that I really like to emphasize. This this is an adult world with kids thrown into it. We're seeing this through the lens of kids. And so yes, we're kind of irked a lot about it. I think that's good to be irked by like all the nudity that's shown, but this is a very adult world and these are kids doing adult things. And so having to get accustomed to bodies I think is actually kind of important. And so yeah, it's a very, very awkward topic to talk about, and if you disagree about it, that's totally understandable too. And so the story continues, and Rico starts being able to utilize her right arm a little bit more. She got some really bad nerve damage because Reg couldn't do a clean cut. So eventually what happens is that Nanachi kind of makes like a cast for her, and then that's about it. Reg finally makes like a backpack. They all make a backpack to carry their stuff, so that's really really nice. And then they set out, and Nanachi waves goodbye to her home that she may have spent like over a decade in. But then again, like I said, time moves differently in the abyss. So maybe to her, it may have been like 8 years, maybe like a couple years. But in real life, it was over a decade. That's possible. So they move on then to to the middle region of the fourth layer, and they come across the Flowers of Fortitude. It was where that Blaze Reaper was, that pickaxe. That's where, Liza's grave was set to be found. And they start going through it, and they meet this dude. And the dude is one of Bone Druid's members. And so they try to scout him out a little bit, but the dude's like, "Hey, you guys over there, I see you." And you'll kind of realize how later on at the end. Yeah, yeah, that's in this section. So that's really cool. They kind of foreshadow it earlier on how this dude is able to know that they're there. And so Reg approaches and they notice that there are these insects that look like flowers of fortitude going around and pretty much invading the area. And they literally like crawl into live people and they're like parasites. They basically survive off of live people still breathing and stuff, and that's so gross. Like, this is really the start of really well. I guess last time was the start, but this is really when the images start becoming insanely grotesque. And so, and I got a little bit of problems with that, but I'll get to that later on. Uh, but they basically what happens is that the Bone Druid dude, he goes and uses a flamethrower and takes out the entire field, and including members of his own crew. Like he said something along the lines of like they're too slow. So he completely wipes out the whole thing, and Reg is torn because Reg wants to go and save those people, but he also recognizes that his number one mission is to protect Rico. He can't protect Rico if he's out trying to save those people, so he makes the tough decision to stick with Rico, which is nuts. That's like the first, not really the first time, but you don't see protagonists ignoring pleas of help very often. At least in anime. Normally, like someone like Luffy, bam, jumping right on. I do not care what's going on. Asta from Black Clover, same deal. Would jump right on in. No ifs, ands, or buts. But Reg and Rico, because they're kids. B, their only real superpower is literally Reg's blaster, which can only be used once before he gets passed out. And also, it was mentioned earlier that I forgot. He's only got a limited number of uses left. And think Nanachi said he may have 3 left. So we're going to be counting the number of blasts that he uses from here on out because he's very limited. So that is something to keep in mind. And so we move on. We finally make it to the depths of the 5th layer called the Sea of Corpses. And really, it's just like a river. It's just a huge, I won't even say a river, like a lake. And in the middle, there's an kind of like an island, and that's where like Bone Druid's lair is. And then it's basically a way to descend into the 6th layer. But the the 5th layer has some really interesting creatures that they snack on. There really isn't much to talk about besides the fact that the creatures are really starting to look very grotesque at this point. Kind of, we're getting to a point where we're looking at these creatures and you're like, how are they even anatomically possible? But they are. And so it's real interesting. We get this really nice picture here of Bone Druid's place, and like I said, it's just kind of like an island in the middle of the sea. So they basically walk right up to it. There's no hiding or anything. They kind of try to sneak up. Like we get this image here, which is hilarious. Reg is trying to sneak, and Rico and Nanachi is like, "Nah, we're just gonna walk up." And we meet Prushka, who becomes such an amazing character later on. I have not seen the movie, obviously, but I've read all the manga so far, so I know what happens with Prushka. But that's going to be in the next volume. In this volume, basically, we kind of start to learn about her character, and I really love her character. She's a child that Bone Druid took in, and so she calls Bone Druid Papa. And it's real interesting because it gives Bone Druid a little bit of a humanistic aspect. Or does it? Basically, he took in this child, raised this child as his own daughter, even though in the past he's shown that he doesn't care about kids at all. Like he's done those experiments. So why did he take her in? We're gonna find out. So basically Prushka goes around and shows them around the place. And then they run into Bone Druid, and Bone Druid's like, "Hey, what's it going? I'll have a room prepared for you guys. Y'all can chill." Like he's a little bit weirdly laid back, which probably should have set off red flags for everyone, and it didn't, causing some unfortunate circumstances. One of which is that at night, when uh, everyone's falling asleep, Ray gets captured. So what happens is that Ray gets captured by basically Bone Druid scientists, and I say that because later on we find out that all of Bone Druid's henchmen are literally just a part of Bone Druid. Like it's like he made clones of himself. That's kind of how he is. He's kind of a monster at this point, where he's just have like infinite number of bodies. I won't say infinite, but he's got a lot. And so this is actually before that happens. This is where Nanachi explains to Reg the number of uses. So, I'm actually looking at it right now to see how much she says. I believe she said three. Da, da, da. Yeah, three uses left. So, just real interesting about that. But yes, basically, Bone Druid scientists capture Reg and they start doing experiments on him. They're like, huh, it's interesting. This robot feels human pain. This robot bleeds. This robot urinates. And then they take off an arm. They literally take Reg's right arm off, and it causes him extreme amount of pain. While they're doing this, Nanachi is talking to Bone Druid, and basically she tells Bone Druid that she is willing to return to him if he lets everyone else be safe. And he's like, "Oh, was I actually supposed to do no harm to those other two? Oops. Yeah. Well, one of them's missing a limb, but c'est la vie." So, Rico tries to go in to save him, and in order to try and save Rico, first of all, she doesn't know where he is. All the doors around are locked except for like a stairway leading up. The problem is that the stairway inflicts the curse, which is like hallucination and the loss of pain. And in fact, Reg slips on the stairs and cuts her cheek and not even realize it. Like it almost looks like she went on a psychedelic trip, just climbing 4 or 5 steps. Like it's insane. Prushka finds her. Prushka's like, "What are you doing?" And Rico's like, I can't find Reg. I can't find Nanachi." And Prushka's like, "That's weird. All the doors are locked. They're never locked." So they both went together to try and save Reg. And they actually end up actually what ends up happening is that Nanaji comes in, and Prushka also has like a little rodent creature that we actually got introduced to in like the second volume. It just says primeval creature. So it's like a little rat thing, and it's like she named it Maya, and so that creature will also become very important later on. But basically, they go and they rescue Reg, and they jump out of the building and land in this like deserty area. And in the deserty area, we've got these scorpions that are buried underneath the sand. And basically, what happened was that Nanachi lured Bone Druid over to the area. And the way she was able to do it was she looked at specific tools that they were going to use to attack Bone Druid. And then they used the tools in different ways that he expected, which is super cool. And the reason why this worked is because Bone Druid was able to see through her eyes. That's how he was able to know everything that was going on. So that's real interesting. It kind of makes me wonder how that happened. And that might get explained in the next section, or maybe not, or maybe it's explained in the film. But for some reason, Bone Druid can look through Nanaji's eyes, which is super insane. And so basically, Reg fights Bone Druid here before he falls into the pit. And Bone Druid uses some moves. And this is my issue with the manga. You get panels like this, and you're kind of sitting there like, what is happening? And there's a lot of panels like this one down here where I see these lines and I'm not sure what the lines are. Apparently, these are attacks made by think like Iron Man's uh I don't know what they call it, but it's like these little darts that shoot around, and he can shoot off like 10 to 15 of them at once. Same concept here. And so that's what's going on. And this is kind of really the start of really confusing imagery between Reg and usually anything he fights. Like that's kind of the unfortunate part of Made of Abyss is that the action scenes are just confusing. And so we continue on and trying to see where it ends because basically uh okay, so this is what happens. So Ray ends up fighting Bone Druid. They fall into the sea. Reg wraps his arm around Bone Druid's neck and literally pulls him up. And he's like, "Hey, you've set all those kids in an elevator. Why don't you experience the curse yourself?" And so he does. And Bone Druid comes out, and he's just like a puddle as he comes out. Then this copy of Bone Druid comes up, picks up the helmet, puts it on his face. And he's like, "Yes, I am also Bone Druid." And he's literally holding the white whistle. So the last Bone Druid wasn't even like the original copy or something. Like, this dude is insane and makes me think that he planned for Reg and everyone to fight him. Because as he's literally getting the beat kicked out of him. He's saying, "Wonderful, fantastic. Oh, this is wonderful. You can do this. Oh, that's so cool." Like, Bone Druid is so nuts. He's having fun getting the ass kicked out of him. Like, that's the best I can describe it. And so Prushka goes and leaves with Bone Druid and trying to see what. Oh, basically, Nanachi stays with Reg and Rico because I think Rico. Oh, Rico gets shot. I completely forgot about that. Yes, Rico gets shot. And so Nanachi stays with Rico and Reg, and Bone Druid walks away with Prushka. And then the very last scene, I'm not going to show, is basically uh, Bone Druid marking up body parts on Prushka saying, "Keep, destroy, destroy, keep." If you've seen Nip Tuck, you'll kind of get that vibe. It's just markings on what to take out and whatnot. And Prishka's like, "Yes, Daddy, I'm ready to be your science experiment," which is really sad. Like, Prushka, she's doing this for her father's love, and that's what really makes Bone Druid tick. He's like, love is the strongest force in the abyss, is kind of what I'm getting from him. And so I think he actually truly loved Prushka, and he felt it back from her. And so he's doing these experiments because A, he's a twisted MFer, and second of all, he's really trying to get something out of her. What what we know, it's not explained in this volume. It's explained in a later volume, so I won't go into that, what he wants out of her. But we're at this point, we're getting a sense that he's making these because he notices that love is a really, really potent force in the abyss. And so that's just super crazy, so amazing. So that's going to be it for this review. I know it was mainly a summarization, I suppose, and a lot went on, but I liked it. It was one of those where, having read the entire series, I completely forgot about Volume 4. Like, I knew about, like, an event here and there, but really, Volume 5 is where things take place, and then the series skyrockets after Volume 5. That's when, think a lot of things happen. So Volume 4 is actually really good, but it's also really forgettable because of what progresses here. It's a really big setup volume. It's really good at setting up, this Bone Druid arc, which is really fantastic. I'm enjoying this arc a lot. And so once I finish this arc, I think I will go and watch the movie and make comparisons. So yeah, that'll be it for me. I'm the anime over analyst, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.